Over the past 3 months, I've had this tent strapped to the top of the 80 series and spent around 30 nights in it from Fraser Island all the way down to Big Desert. And today, I'm going to tell you my honest opinion on the tent as we go through all factors of it, from how it affected the car, to the sleep quality, to setup and pack up, water resistance, everything. This review has it all. And it's going to show you the good and the bad. Let's get into my review on the OCAM Aluminium Hardshell Rooftop Tent. Now, firstly, I do want to say that this tent was loaned to me by OCAM. It was their prototype model of the now released tent. So I had the chance to use it for a few months. I've actually spent around 30 nights in it in many different climates and conditions. So I am feeling pretty confident to give it a fair review. And if you guys do have any questions today about the tent whatsoever, please feel free to leave a comment. I'll be personally down there answering every single one I can as quickly as I can about the tent. So let's get into my review. Weight and size. I was really expecting to feel this rooftop tent on the car. I was ready for the fuel economy to shoot up, for the ride to turn bad, for it to feel sluggish, top heavy, and just less capable of four-wheel drive than what it was before. But I'm pleased to say that the rooftop tent has not done any of this. This tent weighs 65 kilograms, which makes it one of the lightest rooftop tents on the market. And this is a big reason why I went with the OCAM. The first time I took it out for a spin after I mounted it, I honestly didn't really feel it at all. And a few days later, I completely forgot it was on there. So for me, honestly hasn't made a big difference. The 80 also still feels great on power. It is no issue getting up to speed, and my fuel economy has gone up slightly from 12.75 up to 13.25, and I think this is mainly due to the wind resistance. It's definitely the biggest factor, not so much the weight. So I think a windshield would definitely improve the highway performance and the fuel economy. And now the vehicle's capability off-road has still been fantastic. It's pretty clear that I'm not, a crazy, insane four-wheel driver. I'm not out there doing winch challenges or crazy rock crawling, but I like to give things a go. And on the stuff we have done, the big dunes, the steep hills, I've never once thought this tent to be the limiting factor. And I think that's because of its size. This tent is only 160 millimeters thick, which makes it one of the thinnest rooftop tents on the market, which means it's better against wind resistance. It has a lower center of gravity, and it ultimately does not affect the performance, capability, or safety of the vehicle as much as a thicker rooftop tent would. And for the size and weight of this rooftop tent, I really think they got it right. Wind noise. There is a slight amount of wind noise coming from this tent, only really from the highway when you're at speed. There's a slight whistle. I personally didn't really find it annoying, and I forgot about it after the first, couple days, but it is there. And if you did want to sort of solve it, I'd probably just kind of make a DIY, homemade windbreak, and I reckon that'd get rid of the issue.
Weather seals.
So the weather seals were one thing I was a little bit concerned about. Being a cheaper tent, I wasn't sure how they'd go, but on our way out to Queensland, we drove through torrential rain. Like, rain so bad that your windscreen wipers can't keep up, and we were going 100k down the freeway, head-on rain. I'm pleased to say we had no water inside the tent whatsoever. And I've actually, since I've come home, I've been spraying this thing down with a high pressure hose and have no water inside whatsoever. So big thumbs up on the weather seals. As long as they're clamped all right, no water's been getting in whatsoever. The shell. The shell quality has been great. It doesn't feel cheap and actually has a look that has personally grown on me over time. It handles the nicks and scratches from the bush pretty well. They don't really, I've taken this through a lot of shrub and you can't really tell, so that's good. And if I wasn't actually that concerned about marking up the top of it, I'd probably be even confident enough to strap firewood if I was desperate up there. So it actually is a pretty hardy going and good looking shell. The 3 channels that span the entire rooftop tent shell are brilliant. They allow you to mount your gear however you want. So I've got my awning on, my lights, you could put shovels on there, probably max tracks, really whatever you want. It's a super easy system and allows you to mount your gear however you'd like. The roof racks are also a super awesome feature. The one thing, going to a rooftop tent, you're losing your roof rack to, where you might put or need to store things. So for example, the solar panel, I could mount it straight on pretty much however I like. All the racks are all adjustable thanks to that 3-channel system. So you could put even a way bigger panel up there. The roof racks themselves support up to 60 kilograms. So, that's more than big enough to have, recovery boards up there, solar panel or 2. And I could actually, keep putting more racks on and put a bigger solar array up there if I really wanted to. It all comes down to the Gasdrats and how much weight they can actually support, but it lifts that solar panel with no worries at all, and I'd have no issue going up to a bigger panel, potentially 300 watts or higher.
Mounting.
So I quickly want to mention the mounting system. So they basically come with brackets that allow you to mount it to pretty much any roof rack on the market. I've got mine onto an aluminium OCAM flat rack. The plates it comes with essentially just try and clamp it to either one of the solid bars running through it or the mesh itself. I honestly wasn't that impressed with their mounting brackets. They did seem a bit, you know, they worked, they just didn't seem super secure. And knowing that I'm going to be taking this off-road and bashing it around over dunes and all that stuff, I wanted it to be as secured as possible. So what I've done, I actually custom fabbed up my own brackets that hug the support rails of the roof rack to a T, really tight. And this thing now vaulted on just won't. Like, it's absolutely solid. Which is what I wanted. I didn't want any chance of this coming off on the trails. You're more likely to lose the roof rack than the tent. Let's just say that's how well it's been mounted. So I've got 4 of them on each side and the tent's not going anywhere. Gasdrats. So the Gasdrats are sufficient enough to lift the tent, obviously, and even having my solar panel on there, there's been no issue lifting the tent open whatsoever. There's sometimes when you try and lift it, it feels like it doesn't want to lift up, and this isn't because of the Gasdrats, it's actually because it kind of gets suctioned down when it's all shut up. It's like acts as a suction. So if you just open up one of the bit of the canvas doors, let some air through, and it'll spring open straight away. So these are good. I've had no worry about it coming down on me during the night. They hold up and have been mint. Butterfly latches. So I think it was a great choice by the OCAM team to add butterfly latches. A lot of other rooftop tents have all different, you know, style clamping designs, but the butterfly latch allows you to apply pressure to get the perfect seal. And keeping water out is all about getting a perfect seal between the top of the shell and the bottom of the shell. So using butterfly latches allows you to create pressure and easily close the tent and get a perfect seal without having to hang off it, trying to, you know, get the latch to fold over a little point. This being all adjustable, it's very good, very easy to close the tent. Setup and pack up. The setup and pack up is probably one of the best aspects of these rooftop tents, and it's the reason why they are so popular. Roll into camp, 2 latches, and bam, you're set up. It's literally that easy. Being up off the ground too is also awesome because you're no longer rolling out a swag onto a wet or muddy, you know, ground. Instead, you're up here nice and clean, away from all that. It's changed the way I camp. Honestly, it sounds ridiculous, but once you go to this, it's that easy to set up and pack up camp that you don't even think about it anymore. It's a 1-person job and it can be done in seconds. Inside the tent. Being inside the tent is a great experience. We had nights out in Fraser on the west coast where me and Anya would sit up here in the safety of the tent and watch dingoes literally circle around the camp. There's something about being up here. It's like a little home up here. It's, you know, it's super comfy. It can fit 2 adults perfectly. And coming from the smaller swag, having room up here to be able to get dressed, you know, all that stuff has been great. The 6 pockets on the roof of the tent have been great. They're super nice to be able to store clothes, water, torches, keys, all that stuff. Keeps it nice and up there out of the way, you never lose it. The tent doesn't actually come with any lighting, so I've made my own custom, you know, LED strip light, which I've put up here. I've also added some USBs, and they'll go into a Sigi plug, which you can plug into your second battery or whatever, so you can have nights and power up here. But I'm told all new versions of the tent now come with dual USB, which connects up to an Anson plug, so you can have power inside your tent while you're sleeping. The tent does come with a 2.3 meter telescopic ladder, which I can assure you is long enough for any lifted modified four-wheel drive, which is fantastic. And now, speaking of the ladder, there are obviously some, you know, negatives to being in a rooftop tent, that being, you know, the bathroom situation. You do get used to it though, and within a couple of weeks, you're a pro at climbing up and down ladders, pitch black at night. Another thing that might seem a bit, you know, obscure to complain about, but I actually think it's a very valid thing to be, you know, annoyed about. If you can hear that jingle, that is because these zips are metal, and that might sound all well and good, but at nighttime when it's windy, they jingle on themselves really bad. So it'll just hit this zip and make a very annoying jingly sound. I wish they were coated in rubber. That's my one request. If they were coated in rubber, I think that'd be fantastic. But yeah, even in slight wind, the jingle is very annoying. So I think I'm gonna tape these up. I'll put some summon on them just to stop them from doing that jingle because it drives me insane. I also wish they included somewhere to put your boots or your shoes, because the one thing is, great, all well and good until you get up here and then you gotta throw your shoes down into the wet ground. So I reckon if you get a shoe bag or somewhere to put your shoes in, I reckon that'd be an awesome feature to add onto this tent, is a shoe bag.
Canvas.
So the canvas I thought was a good medium between being, you know, thick enough to stay warm in the cold, but light enough that you weren't sweating bullets in the heat. We camped in this tent in various different climates, from the hot, humid weather of Queensland to the icy nights in Big Desert. In the hot weather, we'd put the windows down a little bit to allow for some good airflow, and being up nice and high with big windows allows for fantastic airflow, meaning that you're not getting too hot. And I can say that on Fraser Island, even on the west coast, the fly screen worked fantastic against the midgies. I also like how the canvas opens on the inside, which means that throughout the night you can easily open and shut the canvas without having to open the tent up to the bugs like you had to on my old King Swag. The canvas was also thick enough to keep us warm on those cold nights in the mountains, and with the canvas all shut up, doona, blankets, we were well warm enough inside this tent.
Water resistance.
Now, you might have seen that we ran into some issues with water getting inside the tent on our Fraser Island trip. Now, at the time, I wasn't sure if this was our fault, but I was pretty annoyed at getting wet. But 3 months later, I can safely say it hasn't happened since, so let me explain. So if you saw our first video on the rooftop tent, you would have seen they added a second mattress to make it more comfortable. Our second mattress added a lot of thickness to our bedding, and our top mattress actually sit above the zipper line for the door and rub against the zip and the canvas. And now I think that was what was drawing the water in. And also, I didn't actually season the tent before we left, which you're meant to do with any new canvas. And basically, to season the tent, all you're doing is essentially getting all the canvas wet, letting it dry, and this causes the canvas to expand and contract, and in turn, sealing up any little tiny holes in the canvas. Now, the first thing I did when I returned home from Fraser Island was some weather testing. I wanted to get to the bottom of why water was getting drawn in and why my top mattress was getting wet. So I removed that top mattress layer that was rubbing against the zipper and the canvas and left the tent in the rain for 3 days straight. Each day when there was a break in the weather, I'd go up there, check, and over the 3 days, we had no water in the tent whatsoever. As you can see, not a bit of water, and underneath is all bone dry. So I think having a big oversized mattress rubbing against the zip and unseasoned canvas was the issue. And after coming back from the Fraser Island trip, I've changed it back to the original mattress with a layer underneath, which we'll talk about, and I've had no issues with water since. Condensation. Now, when we first got the tent, we experienced a lot of condensation. If you lifted up the mattress, there would be a noticeable amount of water under there, which would then soak into the mattress. Now, as I said, we actually had 2 mattresses, so you'd never feel it on the top mattress, but if you stuck your hand underneath, you'd feel it on the bottom one. Also, on a really cold night in the Blue Mountains, we did notice that there was actually condensation forming on the roof of the tent. Now, there wasn't enough here to drip on our heads, but it was noticeable. And now this could have been fixed by, opening a window, but as when you're in these super cold environments, you don't really want to let, the cold air in. And I think this is a problem faced in a lot of rooftop tents and even swags. And this is because as humans, we exhale about 1 litre of water while we are asleep. And when warm air hits a cold surface, it condenses. The roof condensation was a rare issue, only really happening on those super cold nights. But what was more of a common issue was the underside of the mattress getting wet. And this is because the mattress was directly touching the floor with no air gap. And when we sleep in the tent, the mattress heats up and gets warm, and the heat gets transferred to the floor, and the floor can actually reach its dew point, creating condensation under the mattress, which is not great. I'll also note that we use a hot water bottle in the winter months, so this makes the mattress even warmer. Now, once I got back from Fraser Island, I want to immediately address the issue, and I've solved it with this. Now, this is Kmart cheap home gym flooring. You can buy it in a pack of 4 for 15 bucks. And now what's important about these is they actually have air gap holes in them, which allows the floor to breathe and not heat up that causes condensation. They fit in absolutely perfectly, and I have not had a bad condensation issue since. Slight droplets after one freezing night in the desert, like literally freezing, but nothing compared to what it was, and the mattress does not get wet. So it's a really cold morning out here on Border Track, it's probably like 2 or 3 degrees. It's about 7:30. And I just want to show you the rooftop tent, if there's any condensation or anything. So I pretty much just got straight up. As you can see, blankets are all dry, which is good. Like, you can feel they're slightly very cold, but they're not like wet or anything. The roof, again, it feels like icy cold, but it's not wet. And the most important part, the mattress. bone dry. And you'll see under here my Kmart tiling being awesome. If you look through, you can see a little bit of water condensation forming, but because you've got this sort of breathing layer, the bottom of the mattress doesn't get wet, which is what you want. So now since then, OCAM have actually used the feedback I gave them and now bringing out an anti-condensation mat that will ship with the tents. And that will do an even better job at letting the floor breathe beneath. So it's pretty safe to say that with an anti-condensation mat or gym flooring like me, the issue is gone.
Flooring.
Now, this tent doesn't actually have a solid floor. Instead, it has slats that run along the bottom and actually support the mattress. This is a benefit because it's weight reduction. It actually reduces condensation and it allows it to be a thinner rooftop tent. But the negatives are, with a thin mattress, you could actually feel these slats, and personally I found them really uncomfortable. And now what I'm talking about with these slats is that they actually create like a gap that you can literally fit your hand in, or when you're lying down you can feel yourself rub into. And now the second mattress solved this, but it was too thick to store all of our bedding in there and we were having those water issues. But now with our 10mm gym flooring, we can no longer feel the slats because the gym flooring is actually firm enough that it acts like a false floor and you no longer feel the slats, meaning that with the original 40mm mattress, I sleep like a baby. And what they've actually done now in the new models is add another slat in, which reduces that gap down now because there's more slats going to the bottom, so it acts more like a solid floor. So that's what I've been told is in the new models. That should hopefully eliminate that slat uncomfortable problem. So now the big question is, how much bedding can you actually fit up there? So right now we have our 40mm mattress that came with the tent. Then we have a 10mm layer of our gym flooring. And now we're sitting at 50mm total, and I can still fit in all my bedding on top of that and still close the tent. This is what I'm actually closing within there. So I've got the 10mm layer of the foam on the bottom. I've got I think it's a 40 or 50mm mattress. I've got my doona. I've got one blanket. I've got two blanket and then a third blanket. So 3 blankets, doona, sheet, and this whole tent closes. No worries at all. So it's awesome to be able to fit all my bedding in because it makes it so easy to pack up. I literally just jump out, take my 2 pillows out and then shut it, and same thing with opening. So really good. I've actually closed it with pillows inside as well, but it does start to bulge a little bit in the top, so I usually leave the pillows out. Now, it does require a little bit of strength to shut it with all these items in it, and I'm not the biggest bloke in the world, so what I do is actually sit up on top of the tent and close the latches with me up there, and they close effortlessly. And the fact that I'm able to store all my bedding in there, still on a comfy mattress and stop condensation, is a huge plus and fills all my boxes, and I've been really, really happy with the current setup on the tent. Quality of sleep. Now, I think this is one of the most important questions, especially if you're planning on doing some longer trips. The actual quality of the sleep is probably the most important part of the whole setup. Now, the longest trip I've done in this is about 3 weeks, and the sleeps were fantastic. You didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. Honestly, they were really good. As long as you can manage to park your head above your butt with the car, you'll have a fantastic night's sleep. In fact, I've really grown to love sleeping up high. Like, I just love the views in the morning are absolutely awesome. Like, we'd watch the sunrise, we'd watch the stars at night, we'd watch the dingoes. It's fantastic. So I can highly vouch for sleeping in a rooftop tent. It doesn't rock around as nearly as much as I thought it would. I just leave it in gear because, it's a Toyota. but like, yeah, it's really good sleep. In terms of wind noise, we've had, some windy nights. The awning does make a little bit of noise, but it's only when it's really gustly. And the zips, obviously, as I mentioned before, they jingle a lot. I wish they were rubber. Otherwise, the canvas on itself is really good. I don't hear that, so you feel quite comfortable and secure in the wind. And I think the quality of sleep really comes down to the mattress. And I'm a bit like the princess and the pea, but I can say that 40mm mattress plus that 10mm layer was good enough for me. But if you didn't care about getting, your bedding in, I'm sure you could easily fit up to like a 90 or 100mm mattress in there. Or you could even go down the self-inflating route, which is a very common thing in the world of rooftop tents, where you can get, the best of both worlds. You can get an awesome comfy mattress and all your bedding in. So self-inflating is definitely something to look at if you don't like either one of these options.
Durability.
So how has the tent performed after 3 months of pretty heavy use? So obviously I've done 30 nights in it, so it's been pretty actively put up, put down in all different climates and conditions. And there's no secret that I don't baby this thing. A few of the little eye rings have got a little bit of surface rust on them. The butterfly latches themselves also do have a little bit of surface rust as well. I think this is from the salty climates I was in, Fraser Island and then down, South Australia. A little bit of that on it. The canvas itself though has been fantastic. There have been times where I've had to put it away like wet, where it's been really rainy, I've had to pack it up wet. But as long as you can dry it out in the next couple of days, I've had no issues with mold or anything of that like that appearing. So the canvas has been really good. The shell, once again, handled really well, still looks great today. So I think the actual durability of the tent is really good.
Price.
So the price is what drew me to this rooftop tent in the first place. A few months ago at the start, you could pre-order this tent for $2,200, and I thought that was an absolute no-brainer if you were looking for your first rooftop tent. Like, this was the one to get. And now the price has gone up to $27,990, which I still think is a pretty good deal, especially for a hard shell aluminium rooftop tent of this quality. It's significantly cheaper than anything else on the market, and honestly, I think it puts up a really good fight.
Conclusion.
So I was very skeptical into getting a rooftop tent. I love the idea behind them, but I just thought there was a lot of unspoken cons that came with them. Their weight, how they affected the vehicle, the ladder. But honestly, this rooftop tent has really changed my opinion on them. And I honestly don't think I can go back to sleeping on the ground. I think if you're looking to get a hard shell rooftop tent without breaking the bank, this is probably the best option on the market right now. It's the most affordable, the easiest to set up, good for hot and cold climates, can fit all your bedding in. It's not too heavy, it's got a good slimline design, you can mount whatever you want to it. I've honestly been really impressed with the OCAM rooftop tent, and I want to keep it on the car. It's changed the way my girlfriend and I go camping, and it's made it that much more enjoyable. For us, it's been perfect. So if you guys have any other further questions or comments on the rooftop tent, please leave them in the comment section below. I will be personally down there answering every single one I can as quickly as I can. If this video helped you out, please consider giving it a like, get subscribed, and we'll see you guys next time.